Most people think storytelling is about persuasion and how to communicate with impact. While storytelling is certainly a skill that helps you be a better communicator, did you know it's also central to good user research? Stories are what we collect in research and what we reference and communicate post-research sessions. Let me give you 3 examples of how stories feature in user research and why they're important. The first is that stories help us uncover insights. When we interview users in discovery, we don't just collect answers or facts. We actually collect stories. We ask users to tell us about their experiences. We do this by asking open-ended questions like, tell me about a time where ... or walk me through a typical day for you. That's because people can confidently and expertly tell you about things that happened to them and what their experience felt like. These stories reveal needs, pain points, expectations, often things people can't articulate in a direct answer. So, stories in interviews are the vessel where insight lives. They give us context. They help us understand not just what happened, but why it mattered. When running observational research, we also collect stories. We watch people as they work at a task, and we note what they did and why. These are stories. And we often use them when describing what isn't working and why, or why we think something is needed or valuable. Second, stories are what make insights intelligible. When we hear people express things they care about in an abstract way, we can't make sense of it. So we ask users to give us an example, i.e. a story. This is because we need those stories to understand what users communicate to us. It provides the necessary context for us to picture it, to tie it to something tangible. In design research, context is everything. Finally, stories are what drive action. Many of us have been in a research session where a user does something completely unexpected. The facilitator follows up and suddenly we're learning something we didn't anticipate. Those moments stick. And what happens next? Well, we talk about it, we debrief, it sparks conversation. That leads to action. People start thinking differently, deciding with that moment in mind, changing priorities. Because when teams watch research, it's the stories that stay with them, not the metrics. These stories get remembered, and more importantly, they get retold. In stand-ups, in roadmap planning, in design critiques. They become a shorthand for a user need or a broken flow or a product opportunity. They shape how decisions get made. That's because storytelling is core to how humans process information. We've used stories to make sense of the world for generations, long before we had written language. Stories are how knowledge was passed down, how values were taught, and how lessons were learned. They're easy to remember, they're easy to share, and in product teams, that's what makes them powerful. So, in user research, the story is everything. It's what we collect in research that helps us uncover insights. It's also the thing that helps us make sense of our data. And finally, it's the thing that lives on in stakeholders and our teams' minds. So, embrace the story. Collecting and sharing meaningful stories is what makes you an effective design researcher.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more UX videos, check out these over here and consider subscribing to our channel. You can find even more resources on our website, including a free library of over 2,000 UX articles. And if you're ready to dive deeper, we offer both live, hands-on UX training and self-paced courses you can take anytime at your own pace. Explore a full course library at nngroup.com.